Things Conceivable, a surrogacy podcast with Nazca Fontes.
Greetings, listeners, and welcome to another edition of All Things Conceivable, another exciting edition for me. A lot of times when we talk about surrogacy after the journey, we have a lot of perspectives to take into account, a lot of good stories to tell. But this time today is a little bit more unique, and we're going to be diving in today to the process of becoming a surrogate at the beginning stages. And so we are joined today by a special guest, and we're going to be chatting with Sasha, who is a new surrogate at the beginning stages of her journey, and she's going to be sharing what it is that compelled her to think about becoming a surrogate and join our Conceivabilities family. Welcome, Sasha.
Thank you. I'm really excited to be here.
So Sasha's a surrogate at the very start of her surrogacy journey with Conceivabilities, and she's from Minnesota, where she lives with her husband, Max, and two children, Louie and Lucy. Now, what's really interesting about Sasha, if you don't mind if I share with our listeners, that you also share your family adventure on a popular YouTube vlog called Family Tales, which I've dived into. I love. I'm riveted. I'm hooked. It's been a long time since I raised my own two kids, but I have to say you brought back a lot of fond memories for me of what it's like to have two little kids at home. So thank you for bringing your family life to a vlog to share with lots of viewers, and I hope some of our listeners tune in as well. Now,
Absolutely.
I love being able to share the experience of what it's like with our listeners in terms of the decision to become a surrogate. And, that means taking our listeners through each stage of what it's like. But, you're at the very beginning stages. So it's really important to get some perspective from women like you, Sasha, right? What it is like to think about becoming a surrogate and finally taking that next step. So before we dive into that, can you tell us a little bit about your family life in Minnesota?
Yeah, so I have two kids, like you mentioned, Louie and Lucy, 4 and 2. I've been with my husband, Max, for over 10 years now. We actually met on Match.com, and I'm a working mom. I work at home part-time and go into the office part-time. We just recently bought a cabin on a lake, so we spend most of our summers there. And then in the winter, if at all possible, we like to fly down south, get a week of warmth in Florida. But yeah, aside from that, that's kind of our life here in Minnesota.
It's a busy one. It's a busy one.
It
So
is.
let's chat a little bit about Family Tales on YouTube. And by the way, Max could not be more adorable. I mean, he is such a great husband and great dad, and he's funny and he's smart and he's kind and he's supportive, and he's got a fangirl here. So shout out to Max. But why did the two of you decide to start sharing videos of your life online to so many people and being so public about it?
Yeah, so I guess starting out, we just wanted to document our journey, and I never imagined it would take off like this. But we grew a following with I think the topics that we shared, and we're just so open with our life. There's nothing that is off the table. So we're just super open, and that's the intention, is to kind of build our, I guess, Family Tale vlog family that way, is just having people relate to some of the struggles that we've gone through. That's just probably been the biggest thing, is we'll share, about our miscarriages, or I guess postpartum depression. I went through that for a little bit after Lucy, and I think people have just been able to really relate. And not only, I feel like, has it benefited them, it's also benefited me a lot, because people have reached out, with just private messages on Instagram or comments. And I felt like I also had that support out there. You know what I mean? So it wasn't one-sided. And I feel like we've all benefited from the channel as well as our Instagram.
And, you just mentioned, sharing all aspects of your life, including the experience of having a miscarriage. And at one point, you actually thought that you were going to be experiencing your own infertility journey. So, do you think that sharing those issues as they arose really did help deepen the connection with some of your viewers?
Oh, absolutely. I feel like we have such a large following that followed us from the very beginning. And now are kind of a part of our family. You know, they'll reach out, they'll comment, and now they're seeing Louie and Lucy grow up. But no, I've had so many messages where women reached out and said, like, thank you so much for sharing your journey, because, you know, it is really lonesome. You feel like you're going through it alone, and just having someone else out there, you know, like us, that were struggling for a year and a half to get pregnant, just to have someone to relate to.
And both of you shared that emotional birth of your own children on the vlog. I think that, you know, for listeners who maybe haven't seen it, tell the listeners what that moment meant to you and Max to finally, you know, get to the point of having your children after the struggle.
I guess I have one word. It felt unreal. I think it felt like I was not in my own body. It's crazy. Honestly, it's indescribable. It's such an amazing feeling to finally get to the other side and hold the baby that you have wanted for so long. It's honestly magical. Like, I don't know how else to describe it. It's amazing.
And no doubt, I can imagine that experience that you went through must have helped inform your decision and desire to become a surrogate. Do you think that there's a connection there? I can't imagine there wouldn't be, but like, tell us how you connect those two events, your own struggle and then, you know, the desire to be a surrogate for somebody else.
Absolutely. Yeah. So with our following, there's still people that have been unable to get pregnant or conceive. And honestly, once we felt that our family was complete, this absolutely felt that, like, the most logical step in a way to not only give back to the, you know, infertility community that supported us through that time frame, just for our family, you know, to be able to close the chapter of having our own children to being able to help someone else. And I think the fact that Max and I agreed on this both so willingly, that I feel like that says a lot. Like, there was no hesitation at all on either of our sides. So.
And when you were talking about this with Max, you know, just imagine laying in bed at night, the lights are low, the kids are asleep, and you're really kind of going through the checklist of, this is a pro, maybe this is a con, this is a big step. How did you talk to not only Max about this and the pros and cons, but I'd be interested to hear how you also talked to your family about it?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I feel like the cons, or I guess, sorry, go back a little bit. I feel like the pros all outweigh the cons. I mean, there was definitely, you know, things on both ends of the spectrum that could potentially have held us back. But I feel like the things that I've heard from other surrogates and the fact that other surrogates go on to have a second or a third or a fourth journey, that really says a lot.
What did your family say when you brought this up? I don't know if you're close to your parents or your in-laws, but what was their reaction?
Everyone was 100% on board. I think my grandma was really the only person that was hesitant, but my mom, Max's parents, I mean, it's something that's different, but I think with being able to talk through our own personal struggles and how much this would have helped us if we couldn't conceive on our own. And my body is fully, you know, capable of being able to carry another pregnancy. So I think everyone in our close circle definitely has our support. So it's been really, really nice to have that as well.
I think that's terrific. And it says a lot about your families, right? To be so on board and accepting and supportive. Definitely. You know, it's one to be accepting and it's another to be supportive. And sometimes people don't get that, you know, that comprehensive support system. So I think you're both super lucky, and it says a lot about your families.
Absolutely.
And how about the deciding factors? Like when you were thinking about, you know, your own journey becoming a mother and the reasons for being a surrogate, what were the main deciding factors? You know, when we talked about that pro column originally, are there, you know, more granular details that you wouldn't mind sharing? Like what was it, you know, if you could name the top 3 deciding factors that played into your decision to say yes to a journey, what would the top 3 be?
I think just I mean, the overcoming infertility and being able to help someone that is potentially going through that and helping create a family, I'd say that's number 1. Another thing, I love being pregnant. I don't have any difficulties throughout my pregnancies. and just being able to experience that again, even though, the baby's not mine, just going through like the kicking and for some reason, I loved labor and delivery. I don't know why. It was pretty hard with our second, but just being able to go through that again. And the one thing I've heard a lot is there's no other feeling like the feeling where you're able to see the intended parents' faces in the delivery room. I think just having that in my mind this entire process so far through the screening process has been something that I definitely want to be able to experience. So, yeah.
Yes, that's the magical moment. Time and again, every surrogate will tell you that that's the moment that they all waited for. This look on everybody's faces.
Yeah.
Truly a magical time. So how did you decide on Conceivabilities specifically as your partner in this journey?
Yeah. So I have a close friend that actually looked into surrogacy, and I think someone that she knows that has been a surrogate, their reproductive endocrinologist at their clinic was suggesting different agencies that she should look into working with. And one of them was Conceivabilities. So actually going back a little bit, initially I had been looking at an agency that her friend had actually used. And right off the bat, they had denied me because of my postpartum depression. And that's something that Conceivabilities was absolutely open to considering me. And I think from there on, I've been with Conceivabilities ever since. So I really appreciate that they give each individual kind of an opportunity to be looked at. So
yeah, it's a full picture, right? It's a full picture of a woman and her health and her outlook and her motivation and her medical history. So it really is a full picture, and everybody should be assessed individually for sure.
Definitely.
And you are now, of course, sharing your surrogacy journey step by step on Family Tales, your vlog. How have your viewers been responding to your journey?
They've actually been really supportive, and I guess they're all in awe of us doing this, which honestly, like I feel like is crazy to me. Like to me, this feels like, again, like I said, the logical next step in our lives, and everyone is so supportive and just impressed that, I want to help someone else create a family or add on to their family through surrogacy. And yeah, I've actually met a couple people that have found our channel that are currently surrogates at Conceivabilities too, which is really cool. Like, I feel like that really is full circle for us.
Yes, we have a very big community out there and obviously growing rapidly, right? So I'd love to hear anecdotal stories like this. Thank you for sharing that, because Conceivabilities surrogates are everywhere.
Yes.
Let's talk a little bit about the administrative steps that you've taken that you have shared on your vlog. I love in particular how you and Max were showcasing your 3-hour mental health assessment. I think that's terrific, because sometimes people don't understand, the nitty gritty. So can you walk our listeners through the process? So from the time you decided you wanted to explore becoming a surrogate, from the application to where you are now, kind of like we'll call them the big kahuna steps, what you went through up until this point.
Absolutely. Yep. So I applied back in August, and that was the application that you referenced. I had a couple of screening calls with the, I think, intake coordinators. And from there, I'm trying to remember because it's been a little bit. So I had a 6-month period where basically I was on a med hold. And that was after I had gotten off my antidepressants, just to make sure that my body had, worked everything out of my system. And from there, once the 6-month med hold was up, I was able to schedule our psych screening. And again, that was a 3-hour long call. And it honestly, things moved really quickly after that. After we had gotten the notification that everything went well, we were moved into the next step of the matching process. So that's kind of where we're at. I hope we're at the tail end of the matching process and are hopefully, fingers crossed, matched. But yeah. Oh, there was a little period of time where I also had to create our profile. So that was just a questionnaire that I had to fill out, as well as send in some pictures of my family and myself, and just different parts of our life that we want to showcase to the IPs.
Well, this is a perfect moment to talk about, where you showcased on your vlog about you creating the profile. And that was so great. It's sort of like, I love how you said that you met Max on Match too, right? So,
Yeah.
I think maybe it was even reminiscent of creating a profile way back when. But tell us about creating your profile and being able to see your potential matches profile.
Absolutely. Yeah. I had spent months over the 6-month period that I had on MedHold and just kind of wanted to gather pictures throughout our life. And I know they have to be recent pictures. So I was pretty limited, but pictures of us on the lake and pictures of us. We just had like a photo shoot done recently. So I included some pictures from that where we were, all dressed up. And honestly, I was really patient because I knew there was nothing I could do through the 6-month MedHold. But once it was time to get matched, I don't know what got into me. I was on another level. Like I was so impatiently waiting to see who we get matched with. And now that we're finally here and, I'm putting a face to the names and kind of hearing about their journey and where they've, overcome different parts of life. It's honestly, it's so moving. Like I cannot wait to meet them tomorrow. And yeah, like I said, hopefully everything goes smoothly for both parties.
It's so interesting to get a chance to talk to kind of like on the very eve, right? The precipice of this big meeting that could really alter the trajectory of so many lives. I think it's really kind of exciting in a way. So share with me and our listeners what your hope is for your relationship with your potential match.
Oh gosh, where do I start? I mean, like I said earlier, the relationship is absolutely the most important thing to me. I want us to be able to trust each other and be able to reach out, if fingers crossed, everything goes smoothly. But, if something comes up where they're concerned or I'm concerned, just to have that trust and to be able to build that relationship between our families, I think is top priority. And, potentially a friendship after that would be amazing. I guess there's nothing more that I could ask for other than those things.
Mm-hmm. That's right. And, it's something that builds over time, just like a romantic relationship, just like a friendship. It's, you enter into this sort of both wanting to put your best foot forward and, the chemistry builds, the trust builds, the relationship builds. So, I think that surrogacy relationships go through all kinds of phases, just like any other relationship out there. And as long as it's built on a foundation of mutual respect and trust, I think you both get to where you want to go, for sure. And so let's talk a little bit about, what the impression is out there when it comes to matching. And I think a lot of people don't understand that it's a two-way street. It's a mutual shared decision to get matched together, that both the surrogate and the intended parents have to say yes. And it's a partnership that both parties choose to embark upon. And sometimes maybe it's, we have a 97% success rate of getting to yes that first time. So, we're highly optimistic. But if it doesn't click, that's okay too, right? Because we want both parties to feel like it's a yes. So, as you kind of are on the eve of this big decision, can you share with me or with the listeners anything that you with Max have said, hey, this is going to be a deal breaker for us. We just didn't realize it at the time. And maybe you just don't realize it now, or something that you mentioned to our Matching Matters team that would be a deal breaker. Anything at all that comes to mind?
I guess we were previously matched before this match where the couple was living outside of the US 9 months out of the year and they were in the US 3 months. And I was so excited to get that match email. And then when I opened it up and I saw that, my heart just dropped because in my ideal, match, the couple will be in the US. So that way, I can feel confident that they'll be able to be there for the delivery. And there's no, COVID, like something like that. Like I know that that's next level, but just to have that confidence that that they'll be there. And I didn't get that with the first couple. So unfortunately I did turn them down, but now with this new couple, they are in the US. So I feel very confident in that. But honestly, aside from location, I really don't want it to be or feel transactional. That's another thing that's really kind of weighed heavily on me. I want, again, the relationship. I think that's so important to me. And in order for this to not feel transactional, I think that's what needs to be there. And so I definitely want to have the confidence after tomorrow's match meeting that we'll be able to form, a relationship where, I don't get the embryo transfer and then 9 months later the baby, is handed to them and that's it. I definitely want there to be an organically formed relationship that we can develop throughout the journey itself.
Well, it's that old adage, there's a lid for every pot, right? And I always say that about this process. It's lots of folks come into this process with a different definition of support and what makes a great match. And some, to the point that you made that you have met surrogates who have done this multiple times, right? And they sometimes endeavor to get matched with different kinds of intended parents to kind of see what the different types of intended parents are all about and the different kinds of relationships that can be forged. So I think that, your perspective and your ideal match is a really important one. First out of the gate, you want to have that that tender relationship that's built where they're close, where you can foster it, and it's not so transactional. And that's what we want for you too. So it's important to always share that feedback and to let the listeners know that there are different ways to approach surrogacy and different definitions of a good match. Can you talk about something that's then been maybe surprising to you at this juncture that, I'm sure you did lots of research and talking to different types of agencies or surrogates or even your own viewers. Can you tell me something that has come up that's been surprising to you that you weren't expecting so far?
Gosh, that's really hard. I feel like I'm the type of person that really dives in head first into anything that I do. And when I do sign up for something, I'm all in. So that's really tough. Honestly, nothing's coming to mind. I did, all of my homework. I had, again, the 6 months to prepare.
Well, then that's really important, I think, for both your viewers and my listeners to know that there's so much that goes into the educational piece on the front end on behalf of not only the agency, but the surrogate applicant herself. I think surrogate applicants are so informed. They're so educated. They're so intuitive. They know how to seek out and get the information they need to feel confident in their decision. And, I'd like to believe and do that we are doing an amazing job of playing it all out on the table ahead of time. These are the aspects to closely consider and be sure about before you embark on this, because it is a complex process and things that are surprising do come up that no one ever anticipated. So the better off we are at the starting line with the information, the better off the journey will be later on. So, okay, we've got a match meeting coming up. Let's say the match is a yes on both sides. What happens next? What's your understanding of next steps after a yes on both sides?
Yep. So after a match is, I guess, confirmed, right? We'll each have 24 hours to either confirm or let the match manager know that, we didn't feel like this was the right match. But let's say everything's good to go. So the next steps would be the medical clearance, as well as I think legal we'll start on. So the medical clearance is where as well as Max, he definitely wants to be a part of everything. So he'll be with me, but we'll fly out to where their fertility clinic is. And I think it'll be less than 24 hours, the entire trip. But basically I'll go to their fertility doctor, and I think everyone has a different experience, but I think there's a saline ultrasound that'll happen just to make sure everything looks good with me, as well as some blood draw, just overall blood tests that need to be done. And then as well as I think some clinics do a psych eval on site as well, just to make sure that everything is good to go. So yeah, that'll be the next, I guess, big step, as well as legal. So I think all of the legal paperwork, that'll be, I think, a lot to kind of digest. I know some people say that, there's some things in the legal contract that is kind of crazy, things that maybe you wouldn't think about, if something were to happen to me, or, things like that. So that'll definitely be the next thing that is on our checklist.
Mm-hmm. Big steps coming up for sure. How about when you fly for your medical workup? Who's going to be staying back and watching Louie and Lucy?
Yeah, my mom. She has graciously offered to watch them while we're gone, which I'm so appreciative of. So yeah, I feel very confident in leaving our kiddos in their grandma's hands. So it'll be reassuring.
I'm sure grandma will spoil them a little bit too, right?
Yes, of course.
When I used to leave my kids with my mother, they got chocolate chip pancakes for dinner all the time and ice cream for breakfast. So, but grandparents love them, and that's the best place to leave them. So all's good there. So I know that there are so many steps ahead. There's so much ground to travel to, but I'm sure there's been something that's also been equally rewarding at this juncture. What's been rewarding for you just to get to this moment?
Honestly, just seeing prospective intended parents and just picturing potentially being able to help them, hopefully get to a baby at the end, has really just kept me going. And I get so giddy. Like, it's so weird. Like I said, I jump in, feet first without really, I think about everything, but I'm all in. And so for me, like, of course, I'm thinking about the end goal. And I really am so hoping that everything works out, because we were, in the infertility world for just such a short period of time. I know there's people that wait so much longer and are never able to get to this point themselves. So I think just hopefully everything works out, and, we get to the end goal, which was just baby. So.
Do you have any advice that you could impart or share right now that you could tell other women who are thinking about becoming a surrogate and whether or not it would be right for them?
Yeah, I'd say if you are even thinking about it, to just do it. Honestly, if your family is complete and your previous pregnancies were healthy, and, no issues came up during pregnancy or, through labor and delivery, gosh, like I already feel so happy and accomplished, and we haven't even gotten to, any of the big stuff. And so if anyone's thinking about it, like, what's stopping you? What's preventing you? And if you can overcome that, I think, just jump in and get started. The Conceivabilities team too, throughout the whole intake process and the matching process, has been just next level too. Everyone has been so helpful, so responsive, so friendly. Every time I interact with someone, I notice myself smiling, because everyone's just been so nice throughout this entire process.
Oh, that's great to hear. No, we have a wonderful team. They're highly invested in the success of everyone involved in their surrogacy journey. And obviously, so many of them have been surrogates or intended parents themselves. But I think it's so important for them. They demonstrate that success because they are purpose-driven. We have a very purpose-driven culture at the company, and I think it really is reflected in the quality of staff and the quality of surrogates and the quality of matches that we make. So thank you for sharing that with our listeners. So if I were to ask you, Sasha, sprinkle a little bit of your magic surrogate dust for our listeners out there before we say goodbye, I'm going to give you an opportunity to just say one last great comment about what it is to be a surrogate.
Yeah, just again, being able to help someone achieve, either starting a family or continuing their family, if they're unable to do so themselves, is already so rewarding, and I'm only still in the matching process. I have no idea how I'd even be able to like describe or explain to anyone listening or, you know, watching on our YouTube channel, being able to accomplish something and give someone a family. And I feel like a baby is a gift that keeps on giving. So just being able to help someone achieve that goal I can't even imagine how great it'll be. So.
Well, Sasha, thank you so much for joining me today. This was so great to talk to you at this juncture when you know there's so many exciting things ahead and so much possibility. So it's going to be great to check back in with you at some point in the future and see how it all unfolded for you.
Definitely. Yeah. Thanks so much for bringing me on. This was such a great opportunity getting to talk to you.
And I'm going to tune into your channel. More and more, more and more.
Thank you.
Thanks, Sasha. So what an interesting moment in time to be able to speak with a surrogate at this juncture. I've never, had somebody on this podcast before on the eve of being potentially matched with her intended parents. And I have to say, she was so excited, yet collected and calm and measured. And you could sense the giddiness, but I don't know that I would be able to have a conversation or sleep. But I just think it's really important and insightful to know that there are milestones and junctures all throughout this journey that are riveting, they're exciting, they're impactful, they're full of wonder. And, a journey in its entirety is truly a magnificent thing. And there's moments to look forward to and celebrate at every step of the way. So thank you for joining me, listeners, and I hope this was educational about the steps that are needed to embark at the beginning of a surrogacy journey, and that you join me for more next time. Until then, take care.
At Conceivabilities, we believe that everyone who wants to become a parent can. Our agency has helped build thousands of families for nearly 25 years. Whether you are an intended parent ready to fulfill your family destiny, a surrogate answering your calling, or an egg donor wanting to expand what's possible in your life, we are your people. See how matching matters. Learn more by joining our Surrogacy Learning Center community at surrogacylearningcenter.conceivabilities.com.